What if I told you that Meghan Markle's most emotional story, the one about the royals being cold and jarring, just got blown apart, not by words, but by a single photo? Because while Meghan's been curating her image from sunny California, Prince William just did something on camera that quietly, ruthlessly, destroyed one of her biggest claims. And let's just say, the palace didn't have to say a single word. The pictures did the talking. Welcome to New Things, where we peel back the polished smiles and perfect speeches of royal life to find out what's really going on behind those palace walls. Grab your tea, this one's spicy. During his recent Earthshot trip to Brazil, Prince William wasn't the stiff, awkward royal Meghan once described. He wasn't that man who found hugging jarring. He was the complete opposite, smiling, bending down, embracing children with warmth that felt genuine, natural, effortless. Those images went viral in minutes, and the internet exploded. For years, Meghan's story about the royal family's emotional distance was one of her biggest emotional weapons. In the Netflix docuseries, she told the world that when she met William and Kate, she went in for a hug, and they froze. She painted a picture of herself as this open, affectionate outsider surrounded by emotionally frozen royals. It became one of her most repeated anecdotes. But now, here's William, hugging kids, laughing with strangers, full of ease, and the contrast is brutal. People aren't just noticing, they're replaying. They're watching the Netflix clip side by side with the Brazil footage. And the question being whispered on every gossip forum is, was Meghan telling the truth, or building a story? Let's be clear, Meghan's hug story was never just about a hug. It was a metaphor. It symbolized everything she said was wrong with the royal family. The coldness, the lack of emotional warmth, the refusal to accept her. But William's new images flipped that entire narrative on its head. And here's what makes it fascinating, he didn't issue a statement. He didn't clap back. He simply showed up, and the world saw the opposite of what Meghan described. A warm prince. A present leader. A man clearly comfortable with connection. And that's when people started to realize something deeper. Maybe, just maybe, Meghan's not the whole story. Maybe the cold response she faced back then wasn't about British formality, maybe it was instinct. Maybe they saw something in her that didn't feel genuine. The whispers from palace insiders have always hinted at this, warnings to Harry to slow down, to take time before rushing in. But those warnings were painted as cruelty in the Sussex version. Now, with these photos, the old narrative looks shakier than ever. Imagine this for a second. You've built a brand around being misunderstood. You've told the world you were warm, open, and rejected by a cold institution. And then, one photo, makes that entire image look like a performance. Royal watchers say Meghan was furious when the photos started trending. According to one insider, she knows exactly what those pictures mean. They're not just pictures of William, they're evidence. They silently say, it wasn't us who were cold. That's devastating for a brand built on victimhood. Because Meghan's PR strategy has always thrived on contrast, her compassion versus their rigidity. Take away that contrast, and her story loses air. It's like removing the villain from a fairy tale. What's left to fight against? Now, let's be honest, people are visual. You can give interviews for hours, but one image can rewrite 1,000 quotes. William's photo hugging that child didn't just trend, it rewired public memory. Viewers started asking, wait, is this the same man she called emotionally distant? And suddenly, the sympathy scale shifted. Harry and Meghan's biggest advantage was emotional control of the narrative. Through Netflix, Oprah, and Spare, they told their version first, and the palace stayed silent. But here's what's genius about this new twist, William answered without speaking. And that silence was louder than any interview Meghan's ever done. Even royal commentators who once defended the Sussexes are now saying it, this changes things. Because the photos don't just show warmth. They expose the performance behind Meghan's old words. And that's what makes it sting. William's trip couldn't have come at a worse time for Meghan. Her public image has already taken several hits, brand deals drying up, Spotify fallout, and critics calling her overexposed. Now this? A moment that reminds the world that maybe, just maybe, the royals weren't the problem. And if that perception keeps spreading, Meghan's biggest selling point, her emotional truth, collapses. Because when people stop seeing you as honest, they stop listening. And Meghan, for all her fame, depends on being heard. But this is just the beginning. Because what's happening behind the palace gates now is far more telling. Quiet movements, subtle smiles, and a calculated royal repositioning that could leave Meghan completely isolated from the narrative she once controlled. Trust me, the palace isn't just sitting back and watching this unfold. They're planning their next move, and Meghan might not be ready for what's coming. If you're loving this deep dive, hit subscribe and tap the bell icon. You don't want to miss what's about to drop next. This is New Things, where royal gossip meets real strategy. The tea's just getting hotter. When William returned from Brazil, royal insiders noticed something subtle but powerful. There were smiles, real ones, at official engagements. Kate was glowing again, relaxed in public, the tension around her noticeably gone. And in every photo op, every headline, every handshake, the palace's message was clear: the monarchy is stable, confident, and moving forward. And guess who's not part of that picture? Harry and Meghan. What William's team did was masterclass PR without saying a word. They flooded the media with images that countered the Sussex narrative, not through confrontation, but through calm. It's the British way: don't fight fire with words. Fight it with dignity, and the public noticed. Viewers who once felt sorry for Meghan began commenting things like, "William looks so genuine. Maybe Meghan exaggerated. It's nice to see a royal who actually seems happy." Just like that, sympathies started shifting. Now, in Montecito, things looked very different. According to one Hollywood source, Meghan's team went into overdrive, contacting friendly outlets, pushing new photos, trying to reclaim control of the narrative. But every time she posted something upbeat, it was overshadowed by a royal headline from across the ocean. You could almost sense the frustration. She built her reputation on authenticity and emotional truth, and suddenly, William had become the symbol of both. Imagine that sting. There were quiet murmurs that Meghan wanted to respond somehow, perhaps through a charity visit or a podcast comeback. But after Spotify's messy split and the public calling her a little too polished, it wasn't the right time. The PR experts she once hired for millions were now warning, silence might be your best strategy. But silence isn't Meghan's strong suit. Meanwhile, the palace doubled down. William and Kate were strategically visible: school visits, local engagements, smiling at children, hugging veterans. Each appearance looked spontaneous but was carefully orchestrated. Every image screamed, "This is what the monarchy stands for: grace and connection." It was brilliant. Because the more the public saw the future king and queen living their duties gracefully, the more Meghan's self-exile looked like bitterness rather than bravery. Even tabloids that once adored her were shifting tone. Stories that used to say Meghan breaks royal rules were now saying William shows what leadership looks like. And that shift, subtle, slow, relentless, is the most dangerous kind of PR warfare. Because Meghan's fame runs on outrage and no outrage, no spotlight and no spotlight, no control. While all this was happening, insiders say Harry was struggling with his own image crisis. Spare had been his emotional confession, but now it reads like an open wound. In interviews, he seemed uncertain, even tired. And when William's Brazil photos went viral, the contrast was painful. Harry, isolated, distant, and often defensive. William, confident, smiling, in command. There are whispers that Harry wanted to reach out to his brother, perhaps to thaw things, but palace aides reportedly advised William to keep distance until the dust settles. In royal language, that's code for, don't give him a chance to rewrite the scene again. And Meghan, she saw the shift. Friends say she was furious that William's trip, of all things, had become the story that weakened her. One insider was quoted saying, "She's angry because she can't fight what looks authentic." Let's be honest, ladies, the public isn't dumb. They can sense when a story doesn't match the tone. Meghan's latest public statements about rising above negativity started sounding hollow. Meanwhile, the royal family simply lived their lives, steady, smiling, consistent. And the more grounded William and Kate looked, the more overproduced Meghan appeared. Viewers started comparing their lifestyles, one built on service, the other on self-promotion. Even longtime fans began whispering, "I used to root for her, but now it's just too much." It's the oldest rule in celebrity life: when people stop empathizing, they stop watching. And Meghan's brand, for the first time, was facing fatigue. Behind the palace gates, the message was subtle but unmistakable: the monarchy doesn't need to shout to win the narrative. All it needs to do is outlast the noise. Every small act, every engagement, every school visit, every moment of quiet kindness, became a quiet contrast to Meghan's dramatized storytelling. And that contrast hurt more than any royal statement ever could. Because when the public starts asking, why does she always sound angry, while saying, William looks happier every week, the PR war is already over. But don't think Meghan's ready to bow out. Behind the scenes, she's planning something, a comeback move that insiders say could be her most controversial. Is it another documentary? A new public apology? Or something far bolder? You're watching New Things, where the tea is royal and the truth always finds its crown. Stay tuned, ladies, it's about to get messy. After weeks of keeping unusually quiet, Meghan's team has reportedly begun laying the groundwork for her big reintroduction. Hollywood sources whisper about a new lifestyle brand, a soft rebranding effort, and a potential tell-all project that promises the truth the palace doesn't want told. It's classic Meghan: when cornered, reframe the story. But here's the risk: the timing couldn't be worse. Public opinion has cooled, William and Kate's image is on the rise, and the world is a little tired of the Sussex saga. Even sympathetic journalists are quietly asking, what's left to reveal? So when word spread that Meghan wanted to reclaim her narrative, many in the media rolled their eyes. They've seen this before: the Oprah interview, the Netflix doc, the Spotify drama. Each time, Meghan promised transparency. Each time, it left her image a little more complicated. Let's talk about the California bubble, the sunlit Montecito mansion, the designer photo shoots, the polished speeches about kindness. For her fans, it's inspirational. For her critics, it's performative, and that's Meghan's real problem: perception. In the UK, William's candid warmth now looks authentic. In California, Meghan's polished messaging feels curated. Audiences over 40, especially women, can sense when emotion starts to feel like marketing, and that's exactly where her strategy begins to crumble. When you build a brand around being real, but every move feels rehearsed, people lose connection. And for Meghan, connection is everything. Without it, her voice, once powerful and persuasive, starts sounding like just another celebrity pitch. Still, Meghan is nothing if not ambitious. Insiders say she's been quietly meeting with producers and PR strategists to shape her next act, not as a duchess, but as a woman writing her own legacy. That might sound empowering, but there's a twist. Many of those same advisors are warning her to avoid any more royal content. The public, they say, is fatigued. But walking away from the royal storyline means losing the drama that keeps her relevant, so what does Meghan do? She blends it. The rumored plan? A personal documentary about motherhood, mental strength, and navigating fame, with subtle references to palace life sprinkled in just enough to stir curiosity. And that's where it gets messy. Because while Meghan is trying to sound evolved and detached, she can't resist hinting at royal pain. And every time she does, the palace wins. The more she mentions them, the smaller her world looks. While Meghan's strategists chase reinvention, the palace remains predictably silent. But make no mistake, it's a strategic silence. Every quiet royal appearance, every new engagement from Kate or William, serves as a reminder they don't need to speak to stay relevant. The contrast couldn't be sharper. William's public life feels like purpose. Meghan's public life feels like performance. And that quiet distinction is shaping the long game. Because in the world of image warfare, overexposure kills faster than silence. And Meghan's problem isn't scandal anymore, it's saturation. People aren't angry at her, they're simply tired. So where does that leave the Duchess of Sussex? Somewhere between sympathy and skepticism. Her story still resonates with women who saw themselves in her, the outsider, the dreamer, the woman who stood up to power. But others have moved on, drawn to the quiet strength of the royals who never answered back. As one royal commentator put it, William didn't win by fighting. He won by enduring. And in the public eye, endurance now feels like integrity. Meghan's comeback could reignite her star, or expose that her story has finally run its course. Either way, she's standing at a crossroads. The next thing she says will decide whether she rebuilds her brand or breaks it completely. One palace aide reportedly summed it up perfectly: she wanted to control the story. Now, the story controls her. That's the irony of the Meghan and Harry saga. It began as a fight for freedom but may end as a case study in overexposure. Because in the royal game, silence isn't weakness, it's power. And right now, the quiet ones, William and Kate, are winning every round. So, ladies, what do you think? Has Meghan finally lost control of her royal narrative, or does she have one last ace hidden up her designer sleeve? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. If you love being part of this royal rollercoaster, make sure to subscribe and tap the bell icon so you don't miss what's coming next. Because here on New Things, we don't just sip the royal tea, we spill it, stir it, and serve it piping hot. Until next time, stay curious, stay bold, and remember, in the world of crowns and cameras, the truth always finds its light.